Hello, everybody. This is Angel Rebo and the CEO of Confident. And we are here today again with Neville Joffe, who is the CEO of Biz Wisdom. Hi, Neville. How are you today?
Angel, wonderful. Thank you. Good to see you.
Good to see you. So basically, we're here today because, as a few of you know already, because he has been talking to a lot of people in the business world for the last few months, is that Neville Joffe, is about to publish his latest book called The Baker's Dozen Rules of Highly Successful Business Operators. So I would like you to tell the audience, what is this book about, Neville?
So first of all, here it is. Well, this book is really about financial accountability in organizations, Angel, which will be very evident from the titles of each of the chapters, like do as you say you're going to do, manage your expectations, don't evaluate numbers in isolation. The idea of this is to bridge the gap between employee operational behavior and stakeholders' expectations. That's the objective of this book, because often there's a big gap between what is expected by shareholders or stakeholders and what people actually do. That's the primary objective.
Today, we're going to talk specifically about chapter 1, which is manage expectations. Why do you think that managing expectations is something that business operators are not dealing with correctly in the business world today?
Oh my word! Angel, when I go back and I think about what happens with investors and all the expectations, I belong to an angel group of investors, and I also work with a lot of large publicly traded corporations, and I see the same thing over and over again. People talk a really good story when it comes to saying what they're going to do. When the rubber hits the road, do they actually do what they say they're going to do? And unfortunately, the courts are full of cases with broken promises. You said you would do X and you didn't do X. So I started this off as the first chapter because I believe that if people did what they say they were going to do, there'd be a lot less trauma in organizations and companies do it a lot better. This also moves down even into the organization itself. For example, the budgets. You'll have somebody in middle management informing someone in higher management, here's my sales expectation. Well, we don't know how much homework they did to get to that assumption. Now, the person who's, say, the VP, then provides this information to the finance department, who will populate the information. The CFO then gives these promises to shareholders and to the board. Guess what happens? More often than not, they don't meet that expectation. Now they lose confidence in the market. So just imagine if everyone in the organization understood the financial implications of operational behavior. They learned to understand the resources needed to keep their commitment and understood with a full 360-degree view of all the touch points and the constraints that could impact their ability to actually deliver what they say they're going to do. Just imagine what the organization would look like and how shareholders would feel. Furthermore, imagine how a CEO would feel if he or she were to walk into a boardroom knowing that they're going to tell the board, talk about their financial results, and it'll be equal to or better than what they promised. Just imagine how they would feel. Herein lies the issue. They're not the ones delivering the goods. The people delivering the goods are in the fields. Because as I talk about in my book, the employees are the custodians of the company's profits. This doesn't happen in the C-suite. It doesn't happen by managers. It happens in the field. And everybody should be able to manage their expectations by linking what they do ultimately to what shareholders actually expect. That's why I started off with this chapter.
What triggered you to write this book? Because it's not your first book. You have probably like 12, 13 more books before this one. What made you write this book, Neville?
Angel, as an entrepreneur, I've been down this road of managing expectations with my employees, with our unions, with my shareholders in companies that I started later on, where I took on outside investors. And talk is cheap. And I've been through the pains of trying to manage the expectations of my own board and my investors. I've seen these pains, like I said early on, through my own training initiatives with international corporations. I've seen this over and over again, not inside my own companies, but from outside as well. So I felt I was compelled to write this because I see it's so blatantly obvious from the outside looking in, and myself having experienced the pain of having to, and the embarrassment of going to a board or going to my staff and saying, you know what, we didn't do what we said we were going to do. But I've also seen the opposite end when I sort of got this right, if you will, where we started managing the expectations, and it feels so good. It feels so good when we actually deliver what we say we're going to do. So that was the compelling reason why I wrote the book, and through my own personal pain, if you will, and having felt good when I really eventually sort of got this right. You never get it 100% right, but certainly can mitigate a lot of the risks that are taken when making commitments to stakeholders.
After having read your book, I have to say that it's really, really an easy read, and it's fun to read. Actually, for the people that are watching this interview right now, it's fun. There are cartoons, there are stories, and there are questions. There are questions. At the end of each chapter, Neville actually raises some questions, asks some questions. What are those questions? What's the main goal of having those questions, and where do those questions come from, Neville?
Okay, so this book is written with various components and in a theme in the same way with each chapter. It starts off the title, for example, Manage Expectations, or Don't Evaluate Numbers in Isolation, or So What? So each chapter within itself, the title itself actually speaks to the chapter. In the chapter, there's a very short parable metaphor that I use to provide context. At the end of each chapter, I'm not sure if you're going to see this, at the end of each chapter, there's a bunch of questions.
Yep.
The true value of this book resides in the questions. For example, in this one here, in Managing Expectations, do you communicate your financial objectives clearly to your managers or C-level executives? I'll give you another one. Do you clearly communicate your expectations quantitatively with your vendors and with your customers? So in the first chapter, there are 9 questions. And if one really asks these questions to one's employees, and I'm not talking about, talk is cheap, Angel. People give all kinds of real cheap answers here, but I'm talking about real deep questions and deep answers, honest answers. It's amazing how, when you address these gaps, how so many good things happen in an organization. So what I would love from my listeners here, because this is my first edition of the book, and we've had a fantastic response to this, overwhelming response. What I would love to do in anticipation of our second edition, so anyone who's listening to this, we'll be happy to send you a soft copy of these questions. And if you can think of any other questions that would be prudent or relevant in your organization, we would love to have you share them with us.
Thank you. Exactly. I mean, to this point, you have to know, I mean, when I was doing the research on this book, that there has been hundreds and hundreds of people willing to contribute. And we're talking about C-level executives of large corporations, worldwide large corporations, wanting to contribute to this book. And we are really, I think that right now, you are almost about to hit the 200 number, the 200 figure of people that have actually contributed to the book. So that's quite a success, Neville.
Yeah, it blew me away. How many people actually were willing to do that? We have a whole lineup of more people who want to contribute to the second edition who have already read the book. Yes, I'm humbled, and I'm thrilled. I really am, that the value that it's bringing to people. It's just
for the people that would like to know more about you and what you do, what's the best way to connect with you, Neville?
Oh, just email me. I love a good debate. Neville, Neville, @bizwisdom.com. That's BIZWISDOM.com. Neville@bizwisdom.com. I'll be delighted to hear from you. I'd love to chat with you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Neville, and for everybody watching us. Thank you for being with us today. We hope that you enjoyed this conversation with Neville as much as we did, and hope to see you soon in the next interview with Neville. Have a wonderful day.
Thanks. Bye for now.
Thank you. Bye-bye.